number one regret of dying people has been cited to be that they lived a life based on what others expected of them and not what they themselves would have wanted to do and how they themselves truly, genuinely felt. That's why this video is so important, because I'm going to break down how you can live life on your terms and assert your true, genuine self. I'm a counselor in private practice, and one of the things I've noticed amongst all of my clients and people that I deal with as well is that people tend to operate through a series of systems and cycles. So what do I mean by that? I mean that most people, including myself, operated from a very automatic place, meaning that I wasn't really conscious of what I was doing. And a lot of people do not really assert themselves through the lens of consciousness. We end up repeating a system of patterns that have been with us throughout our lives, but these systems and cycles do not necessarily serve us because they've been so long-standing and so automatic and so ingrained within us from such an early age that we think it's normal, that this is who I am. If I think this way, whether it be feeling bad about myself, if I act in a way that's going to please someone else and neglects myself, this is normal, this is my life. And it's not the case, because what you are missing within that system and cycle is your conscious self. And this is what this video is about. It's about discovering your conscious self. The consciousness is what kills negative patterns. Remember that, because the consciousness is the antidote to be able to live life on your terms and prevent having that regret that most people have, which is the number one regret of not living life on your terms. Do you really want to get to a position where you are going to end up having that same regret when it's too late? But if you're watching this, you can do something about it now, and it happens through action. You can introduce consciousness through the way you relate to others and the way you feel about yourself by becoming aware of how you relate to others. So for example, if you have positive connections with others, you feel fulfilled, you feel safe, and you feel that those connections with other people or even within yourself, they serve you in your life. They're feeding your natural kind of true, genuine self. Then all you have to do is focus on maintaining that. But if you feel that actually you feel fear, anxiety, you feel low, you feel that actually there's a part of a relationship or how you relate to yourself that's not serving you, that's making you feel miserable, then there's clearly a problem, because you've deviated away from your natural fulfilled self. And that's where you have to focus on what has to change. And this is where consciousness comes in. You are starting to become aware of the cycles you're repeating. It could be negative cycles that keeps happening that you're struggling to break. This is what consciousness is. It's challenging our life and it's questioning our life. That is not an easy process, because you're not just questioning how you're relating to others. You're questioning the quality of your life, the quality of the relationships within your life. And then what does that mean for those relationships? If those relationships that you have with friends, family members, colleagues, if they're not serving you and they are only there to serve other people or detract away from who you genuinely are, then is it time to say goodbye to those relationships? This is why it's such a difficult process and it takes time, because the process of asserting your true self and living life on your terms means that you have to start ending relationships that do not serve you and instead may favor other people. So the starting point of showcasing your true self begins with self-awareness, and self-awareness can be achieved by stopping, questioning, and challenging the very cycles of behavior and feelings that you're experiencing in your life, particularly if you feel low and unfulfilled. And it might be difficult to know if you feel low or unfulfilled if you've never experienced fulfillment. Let me tell you, when you experience fulfillment, you will know. It's like a state of flow, effortless flow with no resistance. You are just in the zone. So if you struggle to get motivated by your life, if you're not feeling good about yourself, if you're in relationships where you're criticized, judged, if you're judging yourself, there's something wrong. At some point, something went wrong. And most of the time, it goes back to your childhood, which is why you can't really trace it back because it feels like it's always been there. This is my life. This is normal. And in fact, it's not. This is why consciousness is so valuable. Now, the starting point is self awareness, but it's also understanding the consequences of change. Like, if I start to assert myself, my true self, whatever that might be, whoever that might be, whatever that looks like, what's that going to mean for my current relationships? If I start to assert myself, if I start to set boundaries and say, I will not tolerate this, I feel good about myself. I'm not going to allow you to talk to me like that. I'm not going to do this thing for you that helps you but is sacrificing my time on as effort for me. So immediately what you're doing is challenging not only yourself but the people around you and understanding, if I do that, what's the consequences? What does that mean for my relationship? Does it mean that that relationship's going to die out if I start to assert my true self? And in many cases, assertiveness and being genuine means that you will have to say goodbye to some relationships that you have. It might be through more distance, it might be through firmer boundaries. It may be that the relationship ends altogether because that relationship was never serving your true, genuine self in the first place. So this is why it's a very difficult and conflicting process to go through, because you're wondering, am I doing the right thing? I mean, am I being too harsh? This person's always been there in my life. It's not been the most fulfilling relationship, but they've always been there. Now I'm ending that just because I want to live life on my own terms. Well, this is the decision you have to make, and it's understanding the consequences, but also choosing which parts of yourself you want to assert and why you are asserting those parts of yourself. Why are they non-negotiable? So some of the questions you can ask yourself is, am I aware of my behavior when I'm with others? Or is it like automatic? Is it one of those things when I interact with someone and it's only later that I look back with hindsight to think, oh, I did that again. I made a joke out of myself again, or I said something bad about myself and everyone laughed and I laughed. I wish I would stop doing that. So are you doing behaviors that you don't realize at the time and you only realize it after? Do you say things to please people or at least appease them? Are you walking on eggshells around people? Now, we all do that to a degree in society. I mean, you kind of put on a social mask, and that's normal, I guess, or it's been normalized in our society to put a social mask on. But the point is that we all suppress things from time to time. It's when that suppression starts to become problematic because you are not saying how you really feel to the person. You're presenting one image, but the truth of the matter is completely different. So there's this dissonance, and this dissonance is not only problematic for the person you're dealing with, it's problematic for you because there is this conflict. You are not expressing your true self. It's being suppressed, and it's going to manifest in other ways through defense mechanisms that you will not be aware of. This is just how the body and the mind process these unresolved issues. Now, I'm going to share with you the secret that no one knows on how to assert yourself. Okay, are you ready? Come. You have to practice. Asserting yourself is a taught skill. Now, unless you are very fortunate to have parents who are loving and caring and fostered and nurtured the genuine part of you to come out, if that's the case, you're probably not going to be watching this video. But for the majority of us, myself included, we did not have parents that nurtured that true, genuine part of us. So we end up growing up feeling anxious, low, have anxiety, feeling self-conscious, not feeling able to speak up, not knowing what to say when we speak up, not knowing really how we're truly feeling because we've never really been taught to express ourselves, to listen to how we feel. And so we end up simply living reactively for other people because it's easier and because it feels safer. But now you've likely reached a point in your adulthood where it's becoming problematic. You struggle to connect with other meaningful relationships. You're struggling to assert yourself at work. You're struggling to get rid of that low self-esteem you've been feeling because the root cause is you lack the skills to assert your genuine self. It's a dangerous loop when you grow up with that low self-esteem because you don't feel good about yourself, and that's going to affect the way that you present to the world. If you don't feel good about yourself, you're likely to isolate from others or not be so social. And if you're likely to isolate and not be social, other people will perceive you as being socially awkward and therefore will be less likely to talk to you. And because they're less likely to talk to you, it confirms in your mind that you are indeed not worthy, you are indeed awkward, and that you're not worth talking to. So it's like a self-confirmation bias. But if you just change the action by asserting yourself, having your shoulders back, head up, and communicating who you are, why you're there, it asserts a completely different message to other people, and they will treat you differently. They will treat you like the worthy person you are, like the genuine person you are. But because you have to learn to assert that, it won't happen until you make the change. If what I've described in this video is you, I want you to do me a favor and take action to prevent getting that regret I spoke about at the beginning. So it starts with understanding any negative thoughts you have about yourself, any critical thoughts, any judgmental thoughts you have about yourself, and how they impact you. How do those thoughts impact you? Really think about that, because a lot of the time it's automatic. We don't realize this is where we have to nurture and feed the consciousness. It's like a little baby. We have to nurture it, feed it, care for it, every day consistently until it grows big enough to be able to shine a light on other areas that we may have neglected about ourselves, our self-care, how we relate to others, maybe relationships that are completely against our favor and that we need to do something about. We're going to start to redefine life as you know it. And even though you will experience pain and conflict in that process, it is for a longer term serving, feeding and fueling a future where you can live life on your terms. So understand how negative thoughts impact you. Is there anyone in your life that contributes to you feeling judgmental about yourself or critical about yourself? Next is assessing the consequences of you presenting your true self. What will that mean for your relationships? Will they strengthen because you are asserting yourself and you're being honest in your relationships? Or will they die off because maybe those relationships were not serving you in the first place? I want to finish off on this point, that if you have a negative thought and if you feel low, is that genuinely you just because you feel it? Or is it the child within you that has not received the attention they deserve and refuses to leave until they are recognized for who they really are? This is what the process of reparenting is. Because we can't count on our parents or our caregivers to give us that attention that we so desperately needed, we have to be the ones to fuel and nurture it ourselves. And through reparenting and through taking action, you can get to a point where you can live life on your terms and be your true self. And if you want support with this, then please contact me for your free consultation, where I will walk you through the steps behind the process for this change and how I can support you on that journey. Thanks for listening.